Cursor is one of the best known vibe coding tools, but it's not the ideal tool for everyone, especially if you're a beginner. In this video, I'm going to cover 7 Cursor alternatives that you need to know about, especially if you're new to vibe coding. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a trick about how you can use multiple tools together to level up your workflow. And if you want to take your vibe coding to the next level, click the link in the description to check out more vibe coding resources. The first tool I'm going to share is Base 44. What makes Base 44 really great is that it is an all-in-one platform. What that means is the database is fully built in to the platform. So unlike Cursor, where you have to be a little bit more technical, know how to connect the database, know how to build in the logic, host, everything like that, Base 44 has it all built in. So you can build an app with user authentication so users can log in. You can have logic. You can have a database connected to those users, and then you can host it on the internet. Now, there's one specific feature with Base 44 that I think sets it apart from some of the other tools I'm going to talk about in this video, and that is its integrations. The integrations make it very easy to build apps with integrations with other applications. For those who are more technical, this would be like an API connection if you were building it yourself. So what's really great about this is, let's say you want to connect Slack, for example, and you want to build workflows with Slack that shares, a final approval to Slack. You can do this with Base 44 and just in basically one click, have this connection built into your app. Base 44 also has AI connections, so you can build AI functionality directly into your application. And that is basically called an integration credit. So you pay for an OpenAI response, for example, using integration credits, which are all part of the plan. So it's an all-in-one platform. I think it's really great for beginners who are just getting started. The next one I'm going to talk about is Mocha. Now, Mocha might be a little bit less well-known than Base 44, but I don't think it should be. I think it should be one that people think about a lot, especially when they are beginner and just starting out with vibe coding. It is also an all-in-one platform similar to Base 44, where everything is included. There's zero setup. The user authentication is built in. The database is built in. And then you can host your app on the internet all in one platform. I think that Mocha is potentially the easier platform to use compared to Base 44, but in general, I recommend testing out each of these platforms yourself to see which one you enjoy using the most, and then continue building with that specific platform. So some of these are just going to depend on your personal preference of which one you like the best and which one you feel like you're getting the best results from. But in general, Mocha is really great for beginners. I think possibly easier than Base 44 to get started with. The next tool I'm going to talk about is Lovable. So Lovable was one of the first vibe coding platforms that came out about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And I really enjoyed building with Lovable. It's great if you are maybe a little bit more technical, a little bit more comfortable. You're a little bit more aware of what a database is, how logic works, how an app kind of is built together. So I find Lovable to be a little bit more in between, where you do have a really easy way to get started and just share what you want to build, and then it's going to build it for you. I can even go to an example app that I built from a different video. This was a Notion clone that we built. And then you can see on the left side, we have our chat that we built. On the right side, we have the app that it created, which I thought was a really, really great example of what Lovable can do. You have access to all of the code. And then there's something called Lovable Cloud. With Lovable, you don't have to use Lovable Cloud. They want you to use it because it's it's integrated into their platform, which makes it easier to basically get started. It also does lock you in a little bit more to Lovable, but you do have the option, if you don't want to use Lovable Cloud, you can connect Lovable to Supabase, to your own Supabase database, which is how Lovable actually started. But it does have Lovable Cloud, so it does have that all-in-one platform functionality. Now, I did create a video comparing Mocha's all-in-one to Lovable's all-in-one, and at the time of that video, Mocha actually seemed to do a better job of integrating with the database functionality. Now, again, these things are changing quickly. Your results might be a little bit different, so I would recommend checking it out. The other thing that Lovable has in Lovable Cloud is AI functionality. So this, again, the all-in-one platform idea, you can build AI apps. Just as an example, that could be like a resume grader. So you upload a resume and the AI is going to analyze it and give a grade. So all of that can be built all in one inside of Lovable. Definitely worth checking out Lovable as well. So number 4, we still have 3 more after this, is Bolt. Bolt also came out around the same time as Lovable, maybe even a little bit before Lovable. I think Bolt was the first vibe coding platform that really got traction. And again, the way to describe this is it is similar to Lovable. Like everything I kind of said about Lovable is going to apply to Bolt for the most part. I would say the way that these tools are differentiating is what is happening in the back end. So they're putting a lot of work into trying to make sure that you have the best possible output. So what Bolt, for example, is advertising here with their Bolt 2.0 is that they're able to handle projects that are a lot larger than before with better context management. What that means is if you have a code base with tons of code built into it, the context is all of that code. The better that your AI understands the code in your code base, the better the results are going to get when it builds new features, because it's all going to integrate together and just going to understand your code base better. So Bolt is saying that you're going to get better results here. So again, these are things that are happening behind the scenes for the most part. The other thing that I would say is kind of different between the platforms as you use them is the design of your app might be different. Like each of them could have their own kind of system prompts of how they're going to design by default if you don't give it a very specific design. Now, but for both Bolt and Lovable, you can sync to GitHub and you own all the code. With Base 44, I think they're doing that as well. With Mocha, I think all the code is on the platform, so you can't export the code. So that's important to you. Just something to keep in mind. But again, Bolt, great cursor alternative and definitely worth looking into. So we've got 5, 6, and 7 coming up. So this Google Anti-Gravity, this isn't as much for beginners. This is more of just a pure cursor alternative. It is created by Google, and it is from a kind of user experience standpoint going to be similar to Cursor, where you see all of the code, but you can create agents that write the code for you. The thing that's really nice about Google Anti-Gravity right now is, at least as of the last time I tried it, they were letting you use Gemini 3 for free inside of Google Anti-Gravity, and I think they are still doing that right now. Let me know in the comments if they're not, but I believe they are. So that makes, I think, Google Anti-Gravity a really great one to try out and a great cursor alternative, especially if you want to try out that cursor experience and want to do it for free. The next cursor alternative is Rourke. Now, the main reason I am recommending Rourke is that it is built for building native mobile apps. So what that means is an app that you download off of the App Store or the Google Play Store. That's the main differentiator here for Rourke. Now, it does have some other really nice capabilities, like you can select the model that you're going to be building with. In general, I found the results to be really nice with Rourke. I think it does a really good job and it's been improving really quickly. So Rourke, if you want to build a mobile app that can be downloaded off the App Store, you should definitely check that out. Would highly recommend it. So number 7 on the list is Emergent. After Emergent, I'm going to give you a bonus tip of how you can use some of these tools together to take your workflow to the next level. Now, what I like about Emergent is I think this bridges the gap even closer to Cursor from some of these beginner tools. So if you think about it on a spectrum, the easiest might be Mocha, Base 44. Lovable, Bolts get a little bit more technical, or kind of the ability is a little bit more technical. And then Emergent, I think, is even further along that line as we get more towards Cursor, which is the most technical, kind of maybe capable tool that you can use. But Emergent does have some things that I think might even go further than Cursor in some ways. So what makes Emergent really great is it's so agentic in what it's able to do. In my experience, you give it a prompt, it might work for 5-10 minutes, building it out, testing out the features on its own, and making sure everything is working correctly, and then debugging on its own with its agents. The other thing that I think is really cool about Emergent is you can build both mobile and web applications with it. So you can start with the web application, ask the agent to convert your app to a mobile native app that you could get into the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, and Emergent can do that as well. So if you want to have a platform that is really capable of doing both out of the box, then I think that's a really good one. It also has integration. So for example, if you want to add Stripe payments to your app, Emergent is a tool that makes that, I would say, a lot easier to do than other tools. I think this is kind of one of those integrations that all of these vibe coding tools are trying to make as easy as possible, because everyone does want to build Stripe integration so you can get paid for what you're building. But Emergent does a really good job and has that really easily built into the platform. In my experience, I've enjoyed using it. It also has collaboration features as well. So if you're building with a bigger team, then Emergent is a good tool for that as well. Like some of the other platforms I talked about before, Emergent can sync the code to GitHub. So you own all the code. You're not locked into Emergent at all. And then you can move on to a tool like Cursor in the future if you want to do that. And that kind of bridges into what I want to talk about next is how you can blend some of these tools together and use them all in one. This is the GitHub homepage. So just to explain what GitHub is, it is essentially a repository for the code that you have written. GitHub is something that developers have been using for many years, well before AI was even a thing. And it's a way for developers to basically have one single source of truth for all of their code and all of their code base. This is important especially if you're working with a team, because you could have multiple people working on the same code base, pushing updates to GitHub. And then you would have, people on that team approving all of those updates and making sure that they're merged in correctly. This is still something that's helpful with AI if you have a team, but even if you're working on your own, there is specific use cases where this is going to be really important. So let's say you're building on Lovable, for example. All of the code is hosted in Lovable. If you can't export or sync that code to GitHub, then you are locked into Lovable, meaning you cannot leave. If you can sync it to GitHub, now your code has its single source of truth inside of GitHub. So you basically think of it as like a folder with all of your code in the cloud that you can access from multiple tools. So now we can use Cursor, sync to GitHub, start building in Cursor, push an update. Now GitHub is updated. Now you're in Lovable and you want to make an update. You're working off of the same code base. So for example, if you push an update from Cursor to GitHub and GitHub is connected to Lovable, now when you go back to Lovable, you're going to see the same thing in Lovable that you saw on Cursor. So hopefully that explains on a high level, like the importance of GitHub and the importance of being able to sync to GitHub and how that works and how you can use multiple tools together. As a bonus tool, there is Google's AI Studio, ai.dev, which is free to use. What's great about it is you can build really great MVPs of apps. So just to show you, here's like a little game that I was trying to build, which is this is actually really cool. So I built this. Basically, it's a 3D claw game. It wasn't working perfectly, but I was able to move this around, and I don't think it was able to like capture things very well. Maybe I'm just not very good at it, but here we are in Google's AI Studio, and there's no database, there's no user authentication. Now, I do think that those are things that Google wants to add in the future, but right now that doesn't exist here inside of AI Studio. But you can easily sync to GitHub. I have some other videos on this topic in more detail, so check out the channel to learn more about how this works and step-by-step instructions about exactly how to do it. But you can sync to GitHub, then start working inside of Cursor, for example, add the Supabase backend database, add user authentication through Supabase. There's other ways to do it as well, but Supabase is one of my preferred platforms. Then you can basically continue building in Cursor, but use ai.dev, the Google AI Studio, as your playground essentially to build MVPs. So this is a workflow that I recommend checking out, especially when you want to take things to the next level. I think I recommend starting with some of the simpler tools. If you're a complete beginner, try Base 44 or Mocha, and then work your way up as you continue going and learning along the journey. If you want to go even deeper into building SaaS products with AI and you want a playbook that takes you from start to finish really quickly, really easily, click the link in the description. I'm giving away the first lesson for free in our AI SaaS course, where you'll learn how to build with Lovable, Cursor, OpenAI, Anthropic, host on Vercel, add Stripe integration, sync to GitHub. All the things that I've been talking about in this video but just put together in one course, make it really easy for you. Check it out in the description. Again, we're giving away the first lesson for free. Just click the link, enter your email, and you can get started right away. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the description if I missed any products that you think I should check out in the next video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more free content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.